Good evening, members. We are not expecting a fire drill this evening, so if the fire alarm does go off during the meeting, please leave by the nearest emergency exit and make your way to gather outside Runnymede Hall. Please note that this meeting is being live streamed. In the event of any technical difficulties, the meeting will be recorded and uploaded after it concludes, making it available for viewing the following day. Please switch your mobile phones to silent. Welcome to this meeting of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. I am Councillor Grace Watson, the chair of this committee. Can I ask members to please introduce themselves, starting from my left?
Councillor Carol Sage.
Jenny Beaumont, independent member.
Councillor Sue Brooke.
Councillor Lorraine Bredding.
Councillor Lorraine Larman.
Councillor Kieran Bowker.
Good evening all, Councillor Matt Cortez.
Good evening, Councillor Lindsay McCarthy Calvert.
Councillor Ben Wimbledon.
Good evening, Chair, Councillor Kate Knott.
Good evening, Councillor Diana Jones.
Good evening all, Councillor Sharon Ainsley.
Good evening, Councillor Alan Edwards.
Thank you. And we also have a sitting councillor at the back.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everybody. I'm Councillor Barry Palmer, Cabinet Member for Economic Growth and Climate Action.
And the councillor sitting up the back.
Good evening, Councillor Rees Langley, just observing today.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd also like to welcome independent person Dale Phillipson, who is attending remotely.
Good evening, Chair.
The first item on the agenda is item 1, apologies. Are there any apologies, please?
We've received apologies from Councillor Harvey and Councillor Thomas.
Thank you. Item 2, members' interest. Are there any members' interest, please? No members' interest. Item 3, the minutes. Members, the minutes of the meeting held on the 2nd of July 2025 have been circulated. Following the issue raised on these minutes at our meeting on the 1st of October, a change is suggested to minute 48, page 2, final sentence of the 5th paragraph to be amended to the following. The HIP board will not be stood down until all identified issues have been addressed. In response to a member query regarding the consequences of the KPIs not being met, the Chief Executive reiterated that any identified officer underperformance would be dealt with in line with the Council's people management policies. Are the minutes with this amendment agreed? Thank you, members. Members, the minutes of the meetings held on the 1st of October and the 21st of October 2025 have been circulated. Are these minutes agreed? Dale Phillips, independent person.
Good evening, Chair. Just a very minor point, but I was present at the meeting on the 1st of October. I joined the meeting in person in the council chamber. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 4. Report on the Home Office initiative keeping town centres safe this summer. Members, we have before us a report from the Assistant Director Housing, Health and Partnerships, which sets out the Council's Community Safety Partnership, response and support of the Government's Summer Surge initiative to keep town centres safe this summer. Mr. Geller, please introduce the report.
Thank you, Councillor. Good evening, councillors. So this is the report on the Home Office initiative keeping town centres safe this summer. This is to update members on the activities that have happened. So on the 10th of April 2025, the Prime Minister announced details of the Neighbourhood Policing Guarantee, which forms part of the government's Safer Streets mission, which is aimed at restoring and strengthening local police across our communities. Now, a key point of the Neighbourhood Policing Guarantee is restoring the confidence of local communities through visible action tackling antisocial behaviour within town centres and high streets. The Health Secretary wrote to all local authorities asking for plans to be developed in partnership with the police, schools and health services, business, transport and community organisations during the summer of 2025. And under the National Home Office initiative Keeping Town Centres Safe this summer, the Council and regional police were sent a defined list of town centres that required action under that initiative. Now, initially, the Essex list didn't fully represent the county's diverse geography. So the Police and Crime Commissioner's Office invited the neighbourhood policing teams and the local community safety partnerships to nominate additional areas based on local insight and community need. So following that request, Canvey Island Town Centre was added to the list by the Home Office as part of the police response under Operation Territory. Mr Miles will be able to take you through the various activities undertaken throughout the summer as part of the Keeping Town Centres Safe initiative. So with that, I will hand across.
Thank you, Damien.
Thank you. Do members have any questions? Councillor Bredding.
Thank you, and thank you for the report. First of all, may I ask, did you liaise with the schools on Canvey Island? Because you said that the Home Office requested liaison with schools. Did you contact the Canvey Island schools?
No, as part of the initiative, we haven't contacted the schools. They haven't been liaised with.
Okay. May I ask then, because obviously as a Canvey Island councillor, I am slightly concerned that in a number of places the report clearly states that Castle Point Council does not have responsibilities in relation to education / youth-based issues, and that they are the responsibility of Essex County Council, which I fully appreciate. However, there is a number of places where the youth in the town centres are stated as being causing concerns for a number of residents. So I'd like to ask, what steps do we think we can take to safeguard the youth in the borough, but also safeguard other residents from these concerns?
Yeah, part of our plans moving forward is to reinstigate the Association of Head Teachers Group, which is the ASH group, which is the head teachers around the borough, and it is co-joined with Rochford as well. So that's part of my plan, to liaise with the district commander to make sure that we can tap into that particular forum as well. And also in terms of how the schools have been liaised with, from a CSP's perspective, we're aware that the police, children's and young persons officers handles that side of the business as well. So that's something that we'll be looking to liaise with the police with, to make sure that I'm fairly certain that this whole plan will be reinstigated next summer, and as part of our future plans to make sure that we're keeping in touch with what's going on in schools as well.
Yes.
Thank you. Well, with regards to that, obviously, I know that the head teachers also have various other forums and groups that they're aligned with anyway, but I'm aware of a number of the youth services certainly on Canvey Island and within the whole borough that are doing major initiatives to support our youth. But most of those initiatives also finish by about 6:30 in the evening, and that is a fact. It's supplied to me by the council. So our youth are at more risk after 6:30 in the evening from county lines, prevent, and all the other things that we all know, aware that goes on. Therefore, I'd like to know whether we could look at perhaps initiatives amongst this plan that may help alleviate some of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of the plan that we've had with the Keeping Town Centre Safe this summer is focused on Canvey, and it's focused around Canvey Town Centre, and accepting that there will be other children from other schools that will be going into Canvey Town Centre as well. But certainly that's something that we'll look into as we take it into our future plans. But the focus of this report was specifically around Canvey Town Centre as well, and appreciating there's a school very nearby there as well.
Councillor Knott.
Thank you, Chair. Under September, it's got a meeting with Praxis and Kingdom security managers to agree updated and improved security procedures at Knightswick. Can I ask what these improved security procedures are, and are they now in place?
Yes, we've had some very good, if you bear with me a moment, I'll just get to my notes. So we've had some very good engagement with Praxis and Kingdom Security. This is based on feedback from tenants. What we've been looking to do is to ensure that the visibility of the security that operate in Knightswick in particular is improved upon. We've looked at increasing the use of Townlink radio, increasing the use of auditing of incidents and making sure that every incident is audited, because we're very aware that there's an underreporting of antisocial behaviour, certainly within Knightswick. So we wanted to make sure that that was grasped, and also that if there are reports of antisocial behaviour, that they are reported to the police as well. And I must say that the meeting with Praxis and Kingdom was very positive, and they've taken that on board.
Councillor Edwards, did you have your hand up?
As you've taken my question by premonition, if I can just turn into pages 21 and 23 of the report, I see that we've got a series. The report covers a series of positive actions, but there's a large chunk of the report here dedicated to objective data that the Home Office is going to require to see the actual impact of these actions. Can you confirm what I understand, which is that we're still waiting for that information from the police, and whether you'll be able to report back on that to the committee at a later date?
Yeah, that's confirmed. I've made the inquiry with Essex Police under Op Territory, which was the Essex Police name for this initiative. They've confirmed that they are not going to be producing any data or any results, and that it is the Home Office that will be sending out any data for any data comparison for any success measures of the initiative itself. And once we receive that data, yes, that will be fed back.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Cortez.
Thank you, Chair. Part 4.5, it says shop theft is increasing at unacceptable levels. What would you consider an acceptable level of theft?
Personally, any theft level is unacceptable. This was the narrative that came from the Home Office, the then Home Secretary, in her communication to all the council's local authorities. That was the narrative from the Home Secretary at the time.
Councillor Ainsley.
Thank you, Chair. I think the horse has probably bolted now, but I believe the officer had a report he wanted to read before we went into questions.
I do, and I'm happy to continue with that, members. If okay. So I may repeat some of what's already been said, so moving on from Damien's introduction, the plan for keeping town centre safe this summer was set out under 11 themes, specifically increased visibility and shared intelligence, working with businesses, community engagement, youth engagement and diversionary activities, knife, crime and alcohol intervention, health and targeted drug alcohol interventions, the night turn economy, public transport assistance, communication campaigns and media, partnership working and KPIs. So going back to the beginning, with increased visibility, we started as a fairly new CSP to increase our visibility in Canby Town Centre. And this was once we knew that Canby had been adopted as part of this scheme, when the proposal was accepted that Canby should be on that scheme. We've liaised very closely with town centre retailers, Canby Market. We've had face-to-face visits and engagement. We've made introductions with retailers to increase their awareness of the CSP and also of an understanding for us of business community issues. For better intelligence, we're engaging with ShopSafe to promote that usage within the business community. This is an intelligence sharing platform between retailers, which is invaluable and works very well elsewhere. As mentioned, I won't go into any more detail, but we've had that meeting with Praxis and Kingdom security managers, which, as I mentioned, was very positive as well. And we've also established contact with BTP, the British Transport Police, on intelligence sharing for Benfleet train station usage. On working with businesses, we've had some excellent engagement with the Knightswick tenants and Canby Town Centre retailers, really trying to understand their issues and also trying to understand the underreporting of shoplifting, which is evident in our conversations and the data provided with police. This has been supported as well by very good police engagement and good police neighbourhood team visibility and engagement of them with the traders and the Knightswick security, which was part of our plan and meeting with Praxis and Kingdom to increase that cooperative working. The CSP ourselves, we've done some foot patrols with security personnel to understand their role and to understand better engagement with Knightswick shops and the Canby High Street to understand what the issues are there around security. The CSP officer has visited most of the high street businesses and engaged with multiple owners and staff of businesses there. Key ASB issues have been discussed with shop owners and very positively received. And this included a target hardening scope of some ASB issues of youths gaining access to the shop roofs. We've also attended, back in July, the Canby business meeting. This is an established meeting, however, there was quite a low turnout. So we've looked to improve on this and utilised our contacts and also with some assistance from councillors to build that engagement with the business community on Canby Island and increase awareness and attendance at the next meeting. The next meeting is next Thursday, and that's being held at the Paddocks, and there's some very good interest, and we're very keen to improve the attendance of that meeting. We've also sought some support from the Essex Police Business Crime Team, who have been very supportive, as has the Council Economic Business Team, to increase that engagement with Canby Town Centre business. And there is a CSP inclusion now in the fortnightly business community newsletter to promote that quarterly Canby Island business meeting and improve that engagement. Under community engagement, the Essex Police Neighbourhood Policing Team have a calendar of events, pop-up events, circulated to council partners for attendance and support, and the CSP have attended a couple of those at Knightswick through the summer in August and September. In terms of the highways, we've also renewed the PSPO, which is slightly away from the town centre but on Canby Island around Roscommon Way for driver antisocial behaviour. Under youth engagement and diversionary activities, we've had some very good engagement with Yellow Door. We've had some good liaison as well with Bar and Bus. We've re-established those links, which was very welcome. We've had some positive feedback from both, and they've agreed as well to help us with antisocial behaviour. It's not part of their role in terms of hotspot issues, but they would be quite happy to deploy in areas that are identified as a hotspot to see how they can assist. So it's very positive from our partners there. We've had some assistance in evidence gathering, and CSP have assisted the police in evidence gathering, particularly around key youth perpetrators that have been identified causing ASB at Knightswick, and we're in the process at the moment of supporting the police delivering an acceptable behaviour contract on one particular individual that will effectively ban them from the town centre. Knife crime and alcohol intervention. This features more so in our future plans, which I'll come on to later. Health and targeted drug alcohol interventions, another for our future plans, but we are looking to improve our intelligence sharing and awareness with health partners, and specifically developing a strand and contact with the NHS Primary Care Network, specifically the Healthy Neighbourhoods Partnership Group, around prevention and emerging trends of health-related crime. And this will be coordinated in our CSP Community Safety Partnership. Under the nighttime economy, the Council's new CCTV project will include consideration for the nighttime economy and will form plans for the siting of camera locations in and around town centres and prominent night spots. And that is a project that's underway at the moment. Public transport assistance, as mentioned earlier, we've established contact with British Transport Police and C2C. We've established what their CCTV coverage is for Benfleet's train station, because we know that it's not just people that live in the area. We do have travelling crime, we have travelling shoplifters, and that's something that we have sought support from BTP and C2C. Communication campaigns and media. We're in the process of making some very big changes to the Community Safety Partnership webpage on antisocial behaviour policy, advice and reporting. And for partnership working, we're introducing a partnership antisocial behaviour group for the duration of the initiative. This ran through the summer, which coordinated our activity. That was led by us in the CSP. It focused on the town centre antisocial behaviour. The attendance there was police, CSP, environmental services, housing management and street scene. And this that phase is now finished, and we're now in another phase about learning from that particular meeting and how we can take that forward into our future plans to keep that rolling. The CSP have a good engagement with the Knightswick security management team, as I've mentioned earlier, and we're looking at the security team and the service level agreement there around visibility engagement, townlink radio use and the other things that I mentioned earlier. Key performance indicators. As mentioned, this is pending the Home Office reporting, but our aspiration on this is a reduction in antisocial behaviour, and looking at what orders we can deliver in order to prevent crime, and as I mentioned, the acceptable behaviour contract that we've already looked to implement and we're helping the police with. We certainly had some really good increased business community engagement. We're looking to utilise the Canvey Island Business newsletter and that retailers forum that I've mentioned, and we've had some very good retailer feedback on activity and the perceptions of safety already in conversations. So future plans, after those 11 themes, one of the things we're looking to develop, and I will stress that it is quite early days on this, some early conversations around Essex Police having a trial of having a tenancy at a vacant unit within Knightswick. In the shopping centre. This comes off the back of this being done by Essex Police in Eastgate for an 8-week period, which was hugely successful. So we're liaising very closely with Essex Police and the business crime team to understand how that worked, what was in place, and how we can replicate that here at Knightswick. very positive conversations at the moment when we feel that will be a positive presence, but we need to understand the capacity for Essex Police to do that. So I will stress, it's very early days, but there's some positive conversations on that at the moment. We want to increase we want to make sure that there's no underreporting of ASB. We want to increase the confidence in reporting ASB. As I mentioned earlier, the smallest incidents aren't being audited, they aren't being reported to police, and they need to be reported so that we can understand exactly what the full picture is and what the full intelligence picture and the full problem that we're dealing with around Canby Town Centre and Knightswick. Continued monitoring as well of, we already have a public spaces protection order for the highways, and we are monitoring whether there will be one sufficient for the town centre. At the moment, in conversations with the police, that's not the case, but as part of our future plans, it's something that we will still consider for that PSPO power, and should it be necessary, then that's something that we will work on with the police. As I mentioned earlier, the CCTV planning is in place with a project manager that is working on that to look at the sighting locations for the CCTV network. We're also looking and liaising very closely with Essex Police around e-scooter ASB and what we can do with them. There's a funding request from Essex Police at the moment, which we are having conversations with them about as a future plan. And also in the future, plan town centre days of action and visibility with the police, and the evolution of a summer events calendar, so that we can have foresight of when the pop-up events are going to be and when we can support those. I mentioned earlier about the knife crime as part of our future plans, and one of the things that was done very successfully by the police in other towns is knife arch deployments. And in town centres, they're very positively received by the public. So as part of our future plans, I will be speaking to the police about the possibility of knife arch deployments in our town centres. It was done in Rayleigh Town Centre a few years ago. It's been done in Southend Town Centre, and the public feedback on those was very good. So that's something that we'd be looking to develop in terms of publicising knife arch crimes. Knife crime. And to come back to the earlier point around schools, they've also been deployed within schools as well, and they've been previously deployed over at Civic, and they've been very positively received. So that's something that we can also look into for our future plans. Lastly, data. As mentioned, it is the Home Office that will be providing data, but I do have some 12-month rolling data from Essex Police around ASB, but bearing in mind this is borough-wide. The 12 months up to September has seen a 3.8% increase in ASB and a 2.7% increase in shoplifting. However, I will stress that is borough-wide data. And as mentioned, as soon as that data comes back from the Home Office, that will be shared. And that's it. I invite any questions. Thank you.
Thank you for that detailed report. Councillor Larman.
Sorry. When the Home Office does send through their report, do we have a baseline assessment that we can measure against? Because obviously, if we don't know where we're at the moment, or where we were at this summer, how are we going to know what impact all your actions have actually made, and if they're actually worth, which ones are worth doing, which ones are not, which was good, which was bad? Unless we get some baseline data, any new data coming in won't be much use to us.
Absolutely, yeah, I agree. All of the town centres that were originally selected were selected on data. As we know, Canby wasn't selected, but certainly that data will still be there, so we can look at it historically and compare.
Yeah.
Just come back. Why? I mean, I know it's a good thing, but why summer? Why only summer? Why not all the time? Why is it? Why are we just limited to the summer months? Does it really increase? Does your data show that there's an increase and then it drops off? Or, I know what the Home Office are doing, but I think it should be.
Yeah, I agree, and it's certainly something that as a CSP we will keep our initiatives rolling, continuously, and we'll continue with that engagement. And what we are looking to do as part of the CSP plans is to broaden what we're doing in Canvey outwards to our other town centres, to use Canvey as that template, if you like, to make sure that if it fits anywhere else in other town centres don't have the same issues, but certainly we'll look to make sure that that's a continuous process.
One more thing, sorry. With the, you said it's underreported. All these incidents are underreported across the board, not just here but everywhere. What have you got in place to actually increase that? What campaigns are you going to run to actually get more people to report? And are they worried about that antisocial behaviour actually, like whistleblowing, actually then being pulled into it?
Yeah, so certainly in with regard to shoplifting, we do believe that is underreported. I think through the summer there was very low levels of shoplifting that was reported. We're talking single digit numbers, and we know that there's going to be more. So part of what we're going to be doing next week at the Paddocks in our meeting when we speak to retailers is to try and promote that all shoplifting should be reported. And as a CSP, that's not the only platform that we're going to use. We'll look and see what social media, what communications that we can do as well. But certainly from a shoplifting aspect, that's one of the things that we need to increase upon. From an ASB position, that's all part and parcel of our plans with our engagement with the retailers, with security, to make sure that if things are happening, that they are reported accordingly, they're audited and reported, so that we do understand the fuller picture.
Councillor Cortez.
Thank you, Chair. With regards to the shop safe, is the data that's gained from that transferable instantly through the other businesses? What I'm thinking is, does it work as if, like a lot of bars and restaurants do, perhaps in Southend or Chelmsford, have a walkie-talkie system where they can warn other businesses live at that time that there's some trouble potentially coming?
Yes, the shop safe platform was very impressive, and it's almost live time. It has lots of information on there. Information around particular people can be placed on there, photographs, incidents, trends, and it's all accessible to anybody that's using it. Certainly, yes, it is a very impressive platform.
If I could come back, does the shop need to pay to subscribe to that, or is that a free service?
They do have to pay. I don't have the costs to hand, but I know that there is a cost to it. Yeah.
Councillor McCarthy-Calvers.
Thank you, Chair, but Councillor Larman has covered my questions regarding the data. I think it is, and just to reiterate it really. No, that's okay. It's a good point.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to reiterate that point really, I'm not sure how we're scrutinising this initiative, which sounds wonderful, but we don't know what the problem is because we haven't got the data, and we don't know whether this initiative is going to make any impact without it. So just to note that, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards.
If I can just follow up on your point there, Lindsay. I think we've got KPIs in here, but there's no base figure in the KPI of what we're going from, and there's no target figure of what we're going to, or what we've achieved. So it's the same sort of visibility, a data thing. Even if they're soft targets, a perceived improvement, we've not actually. You've said that you've had a positive response, and I've no doubt, good engagement will deliver that, but we've not got those police figures yet. Again, I think it's just reinforcing what we're saying. But to a specific question, page 25, we reviewed the security at the centre. There are now SLAs in place. So my questions are, why was there no SLA in the original contract? What are the SLAs, and how are we getting assurance that they're being met?
Yeah, the SLA itself has been reviewed, and we're looking at how we can improve upon that, and that's part of that meeting that we had with the security management. We as a CSP have made some various suggestions around what that SLA would look like, with some additionality, And as mentioned, they've received that very positively, and they are on board with the suggestions that we're making.
Can I just come back and say, so what are the SLAs?
I haven't got the SLA in front of me, so I can't read through the list of what those SLAs are at the moment, but I can certainly get back on what that SLA looks like.
And how are we getting the assurance that they're being met independently?
The assurance from Kingdom and Praxis in terms of that they're meeting the SLA at the moment.
Well, I'd rather not have assurance from, marking their own homework is not that objective, is it? So how are we getting the assurance that the SLAs are being met?
Yeah, and so this is part of what we've looked at. So it's still a work in progress in terms of how we're going to review what that service level agreement looks like at the moment, any amendments that we need to make, and how we're going to hold them to account in order to match it.
That wasn't my understanding of the report. Sorry, Chair, to keep pursuing this, but I'm just going to go back to page 25. I think it said new. Am I wrong? I'm happy to be proved wrong, but I'm pretty sure it said that we've got we're engaging. Okay, fine. I misread that to say that they're in place.
Thank you. Councillor Ainsley.
Thank you, Chair. I'm very pleased that we've started this initiative. It seems very welcome, the CSP that we have, the engagement we have now. But I am deeply concerned and frustrated, and I know this is in response to the PCC, whose opinion is that we don't have a problem in Benfleet. But Castle Point is not just Canvey Island. So, there's mention here of liaison with the British Transport Police at Benfleet. Yes, they're coming into Benfleet, but they're not all going to Canvey Island. There's a lot of trouble around Benfleet Station, around Hall Farm Road, the Hoyne Helmet. There's a lot of drugs. There's a lot of antisocial behaviour. I would like to see this rolled out and taken seriously. My issue is that Benfleet doesn't have a recognisable town centre, so it's probably never ever going to get the attention that it deserves, and we do have a growing problem in Benfleet as well. Thank you.
Yes, I absolutely agree, and as part of what we were doing as a CSP is to use what we've done on Canvey as a template, to use that around other town centres, including Benfleet, including Tarpots, the High Street, South Benfleet, and around those other areas as well. So we've learnt an awful lot from doing this over the last 12 to 16 weeks, and that's what we use as a template to take that elsewhere.
Councillor Bowker.
Thank you, Chair. It's a fairly brief point. We're talking about the development of a new CCTV plan. Does that mean extra cameras? Does that mean more cameras in new places? Obviously, we're not going to discuss where they go. And can we have some idea of timescales when this is actually going to be implemented and functional? Thanks.
Yes, thank you. So you're referring to the CCTV upgrade project, which is funded through the Safer Streets Fund. Just to confirm, that will include new cameras spread across various areas. The mapping exercise for that is currently taking place. Sorry, the second part of the question, if I can just ask you just to repeat that.
Timescales.
So timescales, we're looking at early implementation with works carrying on in the new year at the minute. And that's because of some of the scoping work, that's because of some of the infrastructure work that needs to happen behind the scenes. So we'll start to see some of that stuff come to fruition from, say, we're expecting January, February time.
The procurement.
Right, so the procurement exercise will start around January to February time next year.
So can we have some indication as to when it will actually be functional and up and running? Are we looking at summer or maybe the year after? Or?
If I can come back to you with a proper timeline on that.
Thank you.
Councillor Brooke.
I was just going to ask the same question, so thank you for that. Yeah, thank you.
Jenny Beaumont.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask a question really about this particular initiative in terms of Canvey Island participating in it, but there obviously being a number of other areas across the country that would have participated as well. Do you know what kind of feedback you're going to get from the Home Office on the whole initiative? Because I'm just thinking and looking at the amount of work that you've done here, for example, and the sorts of things that you've introduced, and you've already referred to the fact that you have examples and looking at other authorities within this sort of area as well in terms of their successes. It occurs to me that there'll be other examples of good practice in other places, and I just wondered how that was going to be shared with the whole pool of people that have participated in this project. I don't know whether you've got that information.
For the data set and the criteria of what the Home Office are going to provide, I haven't been informed of what that's going to look like. But certainly what I had to do was send back to the PFCC's office a monthly return of the activity that we've done, which would then be coordinated and sent to the Home Office. Part and parcel of that was what we did in terms of innovation and different ideas. So that would be something that other areas will be doing as well. And what I would expect to see is a pooling of that innovation and the learning that's taken from other areas that we could use as well.
Another question. Yes, I hear what you're saying. I mean, I just can't think why that wouldn't definitely be the case, because if all this, these initiatives have taken place and there's good practice being introduced as a result of it, I can't see why the Home Office or whoever's in charge of this would not want to share that. Particularly learning from challenges that other people have had, but also looking at opportunities as well, because actually when you look at the amount of work that you've done here and the outputs that you've got, it's really impressive actually, and it would be great to see what other people have done and see whether they've done similar things and how you can learn from each other. I'm a great one for not reinventing the wheel, if I could put it like that.
Through you, Chair, if you don't mind. I think that's a really good question. It's a really good point. So we are involved in other projects elsewhere where actually the government departments are actually pooling the resources, so they're getting local authorities and bodies and agencies to talk to one another. So I think that's something that will go back through both to the PFCC but also to the Home Office and put that request in, because I think that's really important.
Thank you. Councillor Cortez.
Thank you, Chair. In the appendix where it says the existing initiatives that we're doing, most of the responses come back to Castle Point Borough Council officers assisting with the enforcement. How many people have we got assisting with any enforcement? When do they work? Do they work evenings? Do they work weekends? And additionally, what is our current police coverage in the area like, both day and evening, for the entire borough?
If I can start off with the staffing bit. So in terms of the Castle Point Borough Council, the community safety resource, we've got Mr. Miles, who's the community safety manager. We've also got a community safety officer who's with us on fixed term contract. That is the level of resources we've got at the minute, and those are the officers that are engaging with police and with wider partners. In terms of policing schedules, timescales, I'm going to defer to Mr. Miles for any information you may have.
Yes, in terms of is it the policing numbers that you are interested in?
It was more just the coverage, because unless they're all undercover, we don't tend to see a lot of them in days, evenings, or whenever.
I can certainly make that request of the district commander to make sure that's fed back. I from previous memory do have some knowledge myself, but I wouldn't like to say, because that was a long time ago, and I think that may have changed. So I would prefer to go to the district commander and ask him that question.
Thank you for that answer. Just to come back though with regards to our own officers that are assisting with the enforcement, you are one person. I'm sure you work very hard, but you've got to sleep at some stage. So where we're talking about assisting the nighttime economy, how are we going to do that if we haven't got anyone working? How are we going to do weekends? How are we going to do the other times if it's purely yourself and one other person covering the entire borough?
Yeah, so I think physically, in terms of, that you're absolutely right. In I need my sleep. In terms of the people that would be available, the physical side of it, that's difficult to match. But I think if we can set out what our strategy is as a CSP, and we can tie in very closely with our policing partners and make sure that the plans that we have, they're aware of them, and vice versa, particularly when we talk about the night turn economy, I think even though we're not there, our plans are, and the police will be working alongside those plans with us.
Councillor Broding.
Thank you. I'm going to go back to data, information, targets, things like that. Could we have the next report that comes to us, extra columns in here that show us basically the baseline data that we're working from for all these initiatives, and basically what the expected target might be, what we hope to achieve by doing this? Because without targets there's a heck of a lot of work going into this, and we really do appreciate the work you're doing. But we would like clear sight of what you expect to get out of all these various bits, because I think it would be very useful for us. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. As soon as we get that data back from the Home Office, and we'll digest that and report back.
Councillor McCarthy-Calvert.
Thank you, Chair. My questions have been covered.
Thank you. Councillor Cortez.
Last one on this, I promise. It says you want to maximise the amount of fixed penalty notices. Is that then reinvested in Castle Point, any that are claimed? The same as anything that's seized within Castle Point, is the proceeds of that put back into Castle Point?
Yes, certainly for the PSPO, they are that the fines are reinvested back into Castle Point. Yes.
Members, do you have any further questions? Councillor Sosh.
Sorry, I did have my hand up at the beginning. I've been waiting for people to come.
Apologies, we
that's
didn't
okay.
see you.
As regards reporting, we're going backwards now because obviously it's all gone forward. As regards reporting of theft from shops, if it's, and I go into this shop I've been going there every day for years, if it's under a certain amount of money, the police don't want to know.
Yes, that's acknowledged that across businesses there are thresholds where they will take a decision as to whether to take enforcement action or not. What I would say to that is any business where they are the victim of a crime, where they're able to identify and share information on who that person may be, it may be the case that the police or even the shopkeeper may not want to take things forward, but the council does have powers that we can use under the community safety umbrella that we could bring to bear. So it's not a lost cause, but yes, you are right, there is a threshold that some shops have.
So who do they report it? If it's under this amount, who do they report it to? Do they report it to the police or do they come to you?
I would say in terms of all instances of theft, that should be reported to the police. Now the Community Safety Partnership work very closely with the police. We share information regularly, and we also share information in terms of some of our high-profile offenders, and we can take various actions that relate to that. So just to give you an example, if there's a particular offender that's affecting a particular business, and the police are aware of who that person is, but for them, they haven't got specific powers that they want to use under criminal legislation, we have got civil powers that we can use to perhaps limit that person's access to the area. Thank you.
Councillor Ainsley.
Thank you very much. It kind of leads me nicely into my question, and it is, what is your understanding of how a person would report ASB? Because you're saying here you're concerned about the under-reporting of antisocial behaviour. Where does one report antisocial behaviour to, in your opinion?
That should get reported to the police.
back to you on that. So when I have attempted to report antisocial behaviour, you go, especially on Digital 101, you go through all the options, and as soon as you say it's antisocial behaviour, it says refer to your local council and cuts you off.
Thank you, Councillor. Through you, Chair. You are right. There are instances where antisocial behaviour is considered to be a local authority function, that they should be ready to step into that arena. When it comes to most antisocial behaviour, I say most because there's different thresholds. For example, a neighbour dispute can be considered antisocial behaviour. That's something that the local authority will most probably get involved with early doors. There are other forms of antisocial behaviour in terms of jobbery and thuggery, where the police would be the first point of contact. What I would say in the first instance is, yes, a person may contact the police to raise the concern. If at any point they feel that they're advised by the police to reach out to the local authority, then yes, contact the local authority. Who you are speaking to at the local authority does depend on the type of antisocial behaviour, the tenure of a person, because there's different pathways that kick in. But that's down to us and our website and our updates and funneling the person to the right contact point. So that's for us to pick up.
And this is exactly the issue, is people do not know who to report it to. And when they try to report it, they get told, you've come to the wrong place, and they give up. Long gone are the days where you could walk into your local police station and have a chat with the local bobby. That's exactly what we need. We need police presence on our high streets, so you can go up to them and discuss your concerns. Now, I know the police often have drop-in sessions in Morrison's, but again, they only seem to go to Hadley, and they only seem to go to Canvey Island. They never come down to Benfleet. So there is no police presence in Benfleet, even though they say they drive around. I don't see them. And ask any of the councillors in this room. We never see any police in Benfleet. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? I'd like to thank Mr. Geller and Mr. Miles for that those very detailed reports. Members, is that report noted? Thank you. Moving on. Item 5, Housing Improvement Programme Update. Members, we have before us a report from the Interim Director of Housing, which provides an update on the current position relating to the Housing Improvement Programme. Councillor Rob Lillis, the portfolio holder for Health, Wellbeing, Housing, has sent his apologies for tonight. However, he has asked me to read out this below. Councillor Lillis says, "Good evening, members. My apologies once again for not being present this evening. The report before you tonight provides an update of the continued good progress of the Housing Improvement Programme. The report highlights the progress that has been made since July 2025 against the Regulator of Housing Consumer Standards. Key highlights from the report include confirmation of primary compliance with the Big Six compliance areas, asbestos, electrical, fire, gas, lifts, water safety is at 100%. Significant progress has been made in respect of securing the full housing management system, and the full stock condition survey programme is expected to be completed by the end of this month. The HIP board last met on the 21st of October 2025. During the meeting, the board received a very positive external assessment of progress from HQN. On Friday, the 31st of October 2025, I attended the regular monthly engagement meeting with the Regulator of Social Housing, during which I provided an update on the Housing Improvement Board. Should you have any questions outside of the meeting, please then feel free to raise them with me. All the best, Councillor Rob Lillis, Cabinet Member for Health, Wellbeing and Housing." This one. Mr Colk, are you able to give any further details since Councillor Lillis sent an update?
Certainly, Chair. Some of the items in the report, the work of the HIP team is moving at pace. So some of the items in the report have moved on since the report was published. The report mentions the service review. The service review has been completed. Recruitment is well underway, and it's been an encouragement for me and the team to see the calibre of some of the people applying for some of the key roles we've identified as part of the service review. The service review, the report mentions work in our sheltered schemes. That continues at pace. The warden call contract has been signed. Is due to be signed in the next few days to replace the complete warden call system for our most vulnerable residents. The Councillor Lillis mentioned in his update around the meetings with the regulator for social housing. They have been bi-weekly, so every fortnight, every 2 weeks, myself and others from the HIP team have been meeting with the regulator for social housing. They said at the last meeting they'd like to drop that from December to monthly. That's a huge step forwards. That they have confidence in the work that we're delivering around compliance and moving from the compliance and discovery phase into the strategic delivery and the strategic improvement plan. That doesn't mean that we're out of C4. It doesn't mean that we've reached that stage yet, but it means that they're confident with the work that we're doing. We talked about health and safety in the report. All of the policies are now live on the website for the Big Six and damp and mould, and 5 of the 6 procedures that back up those policies. So the policy's great, but how do we deliver that? 5 of those 6 procedures are now live, and I'm sorry I can't remember which ones. The others will be completed at pace. The stock condition surveys, we're just under 60% completed with the housing assets. This is now enough for us to start building a asset management plan to come back to people with how we deliver that. The update in the report around policies, we've had another 8 of those come back through the democratic services process. This week, they will now end up going onto the website, and we'll then start building the procedures of how we implement those policies and make sure that the key deliverables are continually maintained. And it mentions the housing management system. The contract is signed, project manager is in place, and we are delivering, we're set to deliver the rent module of that by the key timescales. I'm going to hand back to Angela before.
Thank you. Ms Hutchings, did you have anything further you wish to add?
Thank you, Chair. Members, just to update you in relation to the Council's repairs and maintenance contractor, MCP. MCP entered into a voluntary insolvency arrangement on Friday the 31st of October, so last Friday, and the company has moved into the hands of administrators. The management of the company, with the agreement of those administrators, has bought out the assets and part of the debt of the company in what's called a pre-pack arrangement via a new company which was incorporated earlier in October. The financial arrangements that have been put in place reduce the risk to subcontractors and staff and improve the financial position of the new company. So just to kind of give you a heads up on the timeline, we were first informally made aware that this was a risk on the 21st of October, and more detail was provided to us 2 days later on Thursday the 23rd. We had a home team meeting on the Friday the 24th, and on Monday the 27th commissioned external insolvency specialist legal support to help us navigate these next steps. A meeting with the lawyers and the administrators took place on Tuesday the 28th to confirm the position, and it's very clear that, and just so that you know, that legally we can't do anything until the pre-pack sale goes ahead because we remain in contract. And then on the Wednesday the 29th, so that's last Wednesday, we met with the directors of the company, and on Thursday also to secure the assurances necessary in terms of the intention of the directors. The regulator, the leader, the deputy leader and the portfolio holder were briefed daily and in detail. The deputy leader and portfolio holder had a meeting with colleagues on Thursday, the 30th of October. So on Friday morning at 10 o'clock, we met with the regulator as for our usual monthly catch-up and provided that information to them, and they were satisfied with the assurances that were given. And the pre-pack sale took place later on the Friday afternoon. Since then, the new company has been working at risk, continuing to deliver to the terms of the previous contract. Our legal advisors have confirmed this is a legitimate pre-pack arrangement and have provided advice to the council. In order to protect the legal privilege that affords the council as a result of that advice, members, if you wish to discuss that further, we'll have to go into private and confidential, so I won't go any further on that. But I will say that contractor insolvency is not unusual, unfortunately, and there is a well-rehearsed choreography that we deploy when we're dealing with such a situation. In this instance, key risks for us in the immediate short term were around primarily business continuity, the safety and protection of our residents, and whilst temporary cover for some services could be provided by other providers, to secure full provision would be at least 6 weeks and at a significant additional cost. The other key risk for us was around maintenance of local jobs. MTP employs direct staff, but also a local supply chain from the borough, and because of the financial arrangements as part of the pre-pack, monies owed by the old company to that supply chain will be made available to the new company to ensure that that supply chain is continue to be paid, and that really does help obviously keep local people in jobs and to also ensure then that continuity of service. The other key risk for us, of course, was maintaining the confidence of the regulator. You've seen from the report that we've made significant progress, and the regulator is looking to change or reduce the amount of contact we have with them. And conversations are happening with them about how we move to the next phase of engagement with them. And we'll be picking that up with them in the new year. So at the moment, however, the regulator is confident and assured that we remain on track and that we're managing the risks and that the housing improvement programme continues unabated. So to assure members that the new company is working at risk, there is no contract in place, and that is as a direct result of the insolvency. Working on the same contractual basis as before, including out-of-hours provision. And that out-of-hours provision kicked in on Friday evening and worked out throughout the whole weekend. So it's already been tried and tested, and there's been no loss of service over that period of time. The council now needs to undertake a period of due diligence before making a decision about what happens next. That due diligence will involve not just the financial status of the new company, but also its supply chain arrangements, its assets, and its ability to continue to maintain the contract at the level and specification that we've set out. As a matter of procurement law, however, we are required to jump through a number of hoops before we can award a new contract, and we will be working with our external lawyers to make sure that everything is above board. And of course, any decision to award a new contract will require governance to be initiated through reports to Cabinet or a leader's decision in due course, depending upon timing. And of course, that means that there will be a report members in due course, and we'll work with the leader and the portfolio holder to ensure that scrutiny of that decision is properly reflected. But just to provide, again, a little bit more assurance, in any event, any new contract that we were to put in place with the new company would be a limited fixed term contract of 5 months, because from the 1st of April 2026 we will have a new contract in place. We're currently in the middle of a procurement exercise for that new contract. So this is really about the tail end of this and leading it into the new into that new contract. So the risks and issues arising will be covered as part of any report coming forward, and we can't really know what those are until we've completed the due diligence. But what we do know is that activating contingency plans B, C and D and E and all the other letters of the alphabet We've been working on those. It'll take some time, but won't necessarily provide the same level of cover and will cost more. We also know that if we don't award a contract, then those supply chains and those directly employed people will be directly affected. So there will be immediate redundancies and the collapse of the local supply chain with no guarantee of them being paid. However, if we can secure the contract up until the 31st of March 2026 to allow that seamless transition into the new contractual arrangements, it means those roles will be transferred across. The supply chains will be maintained, and the new contract has a social value clause in it, which rewards providers for using that local supply chain. So the continuity that exists, not just in terms of those contractors who are doing the work, but also for our residents who are familiar with those people, and that's really important for some of our vulnerable clients in particular, will be paramount in terms of our considerations. It's just really important to note that there haven't been any financial losses for the council. We're not a creditor of the old company. Works commissioned which have been delivered have been paid for, and works which remain open will not be paid for until validated, and that will continue. Members, that's all I have to update. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms Hutchins. Councillor Knott, you had your hand up?
Yes, I was going into questions. In the report, it mentions several times that we're working at pace. I just wondered how that pace is being measured and how is that comparable to other authorities?
If I can answer that, Chair, thank you. Pace, of course, is a subjective term, but what we know is that we're under the scrutiny of the regulator. We're working to a programme with milestones that have been agreed by the HIP board and overseen by the regulator. So we measure progress against those milestones. Those milestones are proportionate in that they're realistic, but they're deliberately pacey because of the necessity to secure a stable position in a steady state and away from our current non-compliant status.
Thank you. Councillor Cortez.
Thank you, Chair. With regards to the 1.8 million that was additional investment that's coming this council, as in the report point 5.6, how much of that is earmarked to be spent with MCP plus prior to April?
I can speak into some of those. I can't give you exact numbers because some of that money's already been spent with MCP Oldco. Some of that 1.8 million, just shy of £700,000 of that is for FRA works and ward and call system, which will not be NUCO. But as the remainder of that 1.1, so I would need to crunch the numbers for you, but some of that would have already been spent and delivered, and some of that would be delivered through MCP plus the new company. But to give you, that is not work that they would directly deliver themselves. That is part of a local supply chain. So the people delivering that would be one of their local companies delivering those works on our behalf through MCP plus. So it isn't money going into, it's a local economy. The majority of that hasn't been spent of the 1.8.
Thank you. Councillor Broding.
Thank you. I have a number of questions on the programme update, which I shall mention in a minute, but I also have a few questions on the MCP thing, and you said we would have to go off camera for that. So I'm just giving you notice that I would like to raise that after I've finished with these questions.
Councillor Brain, for clarity, we only need to go into private and confidential if we're going to discuss anything that affects the legal advice.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Right, obviously now on the programme, first of all, I'd like to say I really do appreciate the amount of work that's gone into the HIP improvement programme so far, and I know how heavily you've been involved with it, Mr. Colk. So thank you for that. But I've got a few questions to ask, which I think I would like an answer to. First of all, that I don't think as a council we fully appreciate the stress that goes to our residents' mental health when they have a number of problems. And I think one of the biggest problems that speaking to certainly one or two residents I've come across is the frustration they feel when they report an issue that isn't being dealt with. So I'm just wondering whether or not we can look at one system, because I know when I've spoken to you and asked for an update for a particular resident, you've always had to go to the contractors to find out what the situation is. But really, in this day and age with the amount of computer programs we've got, we really should be able to press a button and know exactly what's going on. So could we look at a system whereby there's a set point where a resident makes the complaint, but we, or yourself as the housing department, know exactly what is going on? Can we please look at that?
Certainly, we already have. In the report, we mentioned a housing management system. The system that we've actually purchased is a housing management and asset management system. So it will cover all that you've mentioned. Phase 1 is rents, because we need to make sure we can collect rents from the 1st of March. Phase 2 of that is full implementation into our contractor system. That will, I haven't got the new contracts awarded yet, so I can't start implementing to them because they won't be awarded until the 1st of April. But it is included in the ITT, the invitation to tender, that those contractors will need to be able to fully integrate into our new housing management system, which is a web-based portal that we can look at a resident and see everything that relates to that resident, and we can look at the asset and see everything that relates to that asset. That is certainly in part of phase 2 of the implementation, and that will be fully implemented by September next year, but it will commence once we've got the new contracts on board.
Right, following on from that then, I'm always a firm believer in prevention rather than cure. And one thing that sort of concerned me slightly is that, and this was asked previously, I think, that we don't actually look at the state of our housing portfolio more than once every 5 years, apart from sheltered housing. Is there any way we can start looking at that much more often? Because if we can get to these problems earlier, we can perhaps prevent bigger problems in the future.
I'm smiling because we're on the same wavelength. The current round of stock condition surveys is a full stock condition surveys of all of our properties. That's due to be completed later this month. We'll then be moving to be delivering those in-house with our own surveyors. I've been working with my colleagues, head of housing management, around tenancy audits and how we can do those. We'll be doing estate inspections, block inspections. I totally agree that we need to be intervening earlier in these properties, and that is all part of the work that will be coming through the HIP team deliverables over the coming weeks and months.
Okay, following on from that then, you keep saying you intend to, but do you have how often in mind? Will it be every 2 years, every 3 years, something like that? What's the intention?
In our sheltered properties, it'll be a minimum of once every year for our sheltered and most vulnerable residents. For the residents where we have a known vulnerability, and in that I'm including disabilities, mental health, all of those things, it'll be annually. But for other residents, a minimum of every 5 years. However, with the new housing management system, we'll be able to see, for me, it's the properties where we have repairs reported are a priority, and we need to get those works done. But it's also, we've got properties that we've never done any repairs on, and I can't see and count and track and measure that, and they're the people that I should be speaking to my counterparts in housing management and saying, can you go and do a welfare visit on these people? We've not had anything reported in the last 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. So it will be a risk-based approach on how often we do that. But it is part of the plan to intervene earlier. And I totally agree, prevention is better than a cure. And I'd also like to kind of speak into what you said around some of the additional adjustments for residents. I'm conscious of some of the cases you mention, and some of our residents do require a softer, lighter, more gentle approach and support. And I'm happy we work very closely now with housing management and assets to ensure that that happens. And it is very much a one-team approach within housing management now around supporting those most vulnerable residents, to the extent of we work with contractors around school visit times to make sure that additional support and all those things are put in place. So yes, we are trying to do that.
Sorry. Thank you. Councillor Edwards, please.
I've got excuse me, everyone, we're back to you. I've got a fairly mechanical question that I've asked across several meetings where we've got software being purchased. Are we, across all of the software we're purchasing, making sure that we're using the new unique property identifiers so that we've got one view of all of our properties? Because we've got a housing system being bought, a CRM system being bought. Obviously, we need to tie it into the electoral services. Can I just have assurance that we're going to use the UPINs, I believe they're called?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Also to say that we've, as part of the procurement and part of the implementation plan, we've included integration and interfaces with all of those relevant systems, so that the housing management system talks to the CRM, talks to the whatever. So for my team, or housing management, whoever, we input the information in one place and it will tell all of the others. That's all part of the MRI1 interface that we've purchased, and the team are working at, I'm not going to keep saying at pace because people will tell me off, to deliver.
That sounds like a great situation to be in. Thank you.
Councillor McCarthy Calvert.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to get some clarity on 4.4 on the report regarding the temporary change to the Housing Services Management team. While the Deputy Leader has briefed me on some of these aspects, I just wondered, because the detail wasn't in the report, if we can have some clarity on what those changes are that have been made to create additional capacity. And then within that same paragraph, because it says that the housing service review was delayed by 4 days to conclude final conversations. I just wanted to get some clarity around why that happened, and because obviously that seems to be at odds with the temporary change in order to prevent things.
Thank you, Chair. So as you all know, the Housing Improvement Programme team has been working on primarily discovery and compliance. In other words, finding out what's lifting up the rocks and putting things right in terms of the basic health and safety and other compliance requirements. Those were the key issues that were identified by the regulator when they did their inspection. You'll be aware that the regulator did not do a full inspection in December because the issues were so serious that they were able to move directly to their regulatory judgment just on the basis of health and safety compliance. So in order to ensure that we take the learning from the journey we've been on to date, we have considered the compliance of the council's housing service with all of the consumer standards, modern practice, and the way things that should be put together. And you'll be aware also that as part of our single status job evaluation, which was completed last year, we did a review of everybody's current job description and how that kind of all fitted together. As part of the root cause analysis that I did for the regulator, one of the key things we identified was ensuring that there was sufficient management capacity and that there was sufficient staff training, that roles and responsibilities were correctly aligned, accountabilities were set up, and that the service was organised in such a way that it would be able to meet the regulatory requirements that we now face. So Chris Stratford, who is the interim director of housing, his role has been expanded to move just from that compliance and discovery piece to the service improvement plan. And a service improvement plan and a strategic approach to improvement across the whole service. It has now been agreed with the regulator and will form the basis of our engagement with the regulator going forward, and will likely form the basis of any voluntary undertaking or other arrangement we come to with the regulator as we move out of C4. So that expertise allows us to focus on the additional work that's necessary to put in place the right people in the right place to do the right things. And accompanying that has been the service review of the which was begun by Mr. Geller, but the implementation of the housing team restructure. So the HR process is necessary to realign jobs, roles, job descriptions with these new regulatory requirements has now been completed. So the consultation process that's required as part of employment law has a minimum period of engagement. That period of engagement was extended because of the levels of engagement and feedback that had been given by staff that quite properly needed to be taken into account, reflected and played back. And so that's why that consultation period was extended. It is now completed. The new structure has been agreed. Roles are being appointed to where individuals can slot into new roles. Those roles are will be taking place where there are vacancies. We'll do a risk-based assessment that says, do we need somebody in the interim now to get things moving whilst we are recruiting permanently, or can we go straight to permanent recruitment because actually it's just a capacity piece that we need to build. Getting the team right and getting the team to a steady state is absolutely critical to us moving out of C4 regulatory judgment, because we cannot begin to satisfy the regulator, or indeed you as members, or indeed me as head of paid service, that we have the sustainable solution unless we're satisfied that the people that we have are in the right places, that they have the right skills, that the policies and procedures that you've already heard are properly embedded and people are trained on those, and those things are being implemented. So it is so that's where we are moving to. There is a check-in point for me in March of next year to review the management team at that point and to understand whether we need to continue, whether we are now at a position where we can begin to move away from an interim support team and start to move the business, the HIP programme back into business as usual. But that is something that I will be reviewing in conjunction with the Housing Improvement Programme Board. And as we've said, and we noted earlier in the amendment to the minutes, it is the Housing Improvement Programme Board which will be the final arbiter of when it is the right time for that board to be stood down and for the housing service to kind of return to business as usual.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Angela. Councillor Cortez.
Thank you, Chair. Going back to MCP, two parts to the question. Can we can definitely confirm that no Castle Point business has been affected by their failure. They're not owed money as part one. Can we also confirm that the wider UK taxpayer also isn't affected?
So I'm not able to confirm those details to you because those details are a result of the insolvency arrangements. They are with the administrator. We've done everything we can to secure the future financial sustainability of the supply chains, as I've already indicated. If there are historic debts that are owed from the old company, an arrangement has been put in place as part of the pre-pack for 50% of those debts to be bought by the new company. So the obligation will continue. There's also a sort of element of ransom, which is that in order to ensure that supply chains remain unaffected, it is in the commercial interests of the new company to ensure that the debts of the old company are settled. So there is a moral imperative there. We are waiting for final formal confirmation from the administrator, but because we're not a creditor, we don't get the same amount of information from an administration as we would do. And that's why we rely on the pre-pack and the legal team. But that's all part of the due diligence that we're doing. There's a window of opportunity for us to kind of get under the skin of that and get some additional assurances. And those sorts of things are what we will be taking into account when we're asking members to make a decision about the award of a new contract.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, the key concern that drove this whole process is tenant health and safety. So I've got a few questions about section 5, 5.7 onwards. We've made lots of progress, and I'm very grateful to see that. But we say in 5.7 that compliance with the big 6 areas, asbestos, electrical, fire, gas, lifts and water safety, continues to be delivered at pace within the delivery programme of required inspections, etc., etc. But then in 5.8 we say compliance is at 100%. Then we say remedial actions identified are being progressed. I can't quite understand how with 60% of the condition surveys done, admitting that there are remedial actions and that we're continuing to do work, that we can say we're at 100%. What are we at 100% of, and how, and further, how are we getting the assurance that we can say to the regulators, because it's really not clear what we're at 100% of.
So we have primary compliance, which is the flagle, the big 6, that now we should include damp and mould because AWAB's laws become into effect. Under primary compliance, we have a legal duty to complete certain inspections, and that's our primary compliance. All of that has been done. On the back of that, for electric, one of the flagle big 6, we have a legal obligation to make sure that we have electrical condition reports on all of our properties. That's part of that primary compliance. That has all been completed. We're at 100%. Under primary compliance, we have a legal obligation to complete a fire risk assessment on all of the blocks that we are responsible and have a legal duty to complete a fire risk assessment of. That's primary compliance. On the back of that, there are remedial actions. So the report will say you have to do, we recommend you do these things. That's the secondary compliance. They're the things that are progressing at pace. We've done what we should do legally to have the report done, but we then need to get the works done behind that. So that's the secondary compliance. Other areas of secondary compliance that you don't have a legal obligation to do, but it's best good practice, CO2 monitors, smoke detectors, and that's the other secondary compliance that we're bringing in at pace, and we've not finished. And in terms of your question around assurance, you'll note that several of the times I've sat at HIP board or whatever, we're reporting compliance. Unless my team have seen a certificate that says we've done that, we report it as non-compliant. So the fact that we're at 100% on LGSR, the gas, that means someone within my team, someone within housing, has seen the certificate and validated that certificate, and then we'll tick it as complete. There's times when we've reported our lifts, Lola, as non-compliant. It's not that we weren't compliant, it's that we'd not seen the certificate. And until I've seen that, or the team have seen that, I'm not going to stand in front of anyone and say, well, the contractor said they've done it, but if we haven't got the certificate, if we've not seen it and put that against the asset on the system, then it's not compliant.
Thank you. I mean, I personally find that very reassuring, and I think that to a degree, the legalese in the report, which is no doubt necessary, is kind of underselling what you've managed to achieve in the short time that we've got. So, you know, we've got that 100% compliance, and the fact that we've actually got it in the system now, so it's visible, I think is an achievement. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Ainsley.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to just say that we do recognise what a shambles this administration inherited, and recognise also the amazing work that's been done under the wing and the guidance of Councillor Rob Lillis and our Deputy Mayor, Kate Knott, with officers. And it's about time that social housing was treated with the respect that it's due. That, you know, we're providing homes for people, and they need to be fit for purpose. So I'm glad of the work that's being done, and I welcome the work that is to come. And on behalf of the residents, you know, who we're providing these homes, they're not houses, they're not bricks and mortar, they are homes. I'd like to thank them for their hard work. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Brading. Apologies.
I just wanted to say thank you for noticing the hard work that the team are putting in. And I'm going to say it because if I don't, I would feel remiss. We are moving, the strap line for housing is resident focused, data led and performance driven. That is on everything that we try and do from the top down. Everything is based on what's best for our residents. What does the data say? And what's going to give the best performance?
Thank you. Councillor Brading.
Thank you. I wanted him to have his say first. Right, I want to refer back to the MCP. I actually have a moral problem with companies that go into insolvency, voluntarily or not, and then start up with the same name, team and everything else. And as somebody who in the past has actually been hit by companies going bankrupt and doing the same thing on my business, I think it's something the council should take very seriously about getting into bed with. So that said, I have a question, and that is, when you said about MCP1, you actually said the company formed before MCP went into bankrupt, which makes me think that that was a thought out position and quite a deliberate position. And secondly, although you've been given a reassurance that no local businesses would have been financially affected, from personal experience, most local businesses get back a percentage of the money that's owed to them. They don't get back the full amount because the company is going to insolvency for financial issues. So I would be very surprised if any local firms have not been affected by this financially, or that whether any firms may have gone under or lost staff because of it. And I do think that's something we as a council really ought to consider. Thank you.
So if I can just take your point, Councillor Brading, around thought out and deliberate. Directors of a company have a legal duty to not trade at a loss. So it is their obligation to ensure that if there is a risk of insolvency, however so arising, that they take all necessary steps to mitigate and defray that. So I wouldn't necessarily agree with you that there was any kind of sinister intent. Unfortunately, it's not my first experience of companies going insolvent. It happens on a fairly regular basis, and this is exactly how you would expect to see it happen. A management buyout of a failing company is again entirely common, and the when we were informed informally, the first question I raised is, I want to speak to the insolvency practitioners. I want to make sure that this is legitimate, that this is a true pre-pack situation. This isn't asset liquidation or asset stripping. So we have absolutely had that assurance from our legal experts who have, and we've met with the insolvency practitioner who has given us that assurance. In terms of local businesses being affected, can I just for the record say, I don't think I did say that no local businesses have been affected. I think I said that I can't say that any haven't been, but the steps that have been taken in relation to the transfer of debt from the old company to the new company means that essentially cash has gone into the new company, which allows them to ensure that supply chains can be maintained and that staff can be retained, so that it isn't a mass redundancy situation. The importance for the company and the commercial imperative for the new company is to continue to deliver the service as competently and as efficiently as they have done to date, because they will want to secure that longer term contract, which they are currently under no obligation to receive. We know that there are some very real risks associated with those practicalities, but there are also very real procurement and governance hoops that we absolutely have to abide by. So we will do this by the book, as we always do, and we will make sure that all of the points that you've raised are reflected in the eventual report which goes to the Cabinet and or the leader, depending on which governance route is decided.
Thank you. Councillor Cortez.
Thank you, Chair. With regards to the work that the original MCP has done, obviously there would be a level of guarantee given with the works. Have we got any financial risk that should those works fail, for example, I don't know, they've put a boiler in and the boiler fails, obviously we'd have to get the new company to repair it. So have we got any contingency available for any works that they've done that maybe weren't up to standard previously?
I don't know whether we have any guarantees or warranties in place for equipment. We would have manufacturers' warranties, which we would.
I'm more thinking for the work. If they've done some work, if it's failed within a decent time, then they.
The amount of works that has been done, capital works that have been delivered on this contract to date and ongoing, we have those in latent defects periods, but the amount of capital works is very limited, and it is things like bathrooms, kitchens, and that kind of stuff. So it is very limited.
Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to dig into 4.7 a little. We've got HQN as external advisors. We're told that they've provided a detailed report to the Housing Improvement Board in October, but we've got no details at all of that detailed report. So can you just tell us what did they identify as gaps and risks? And if they made any recommendations to address those gaps and risks, have we implemented them all? And if not, why not?
So thank you, Chair, through you. The report from HQN was measuring our progress, measuring our assessment. There is a detailed report and slide deck that was presented to the Housing Improvement Programme Board. That can be made available outside of this meeting. I'm very happy to circulate that. It does contain a series of recommendations, but those were only presented in October, and so they will have been adapted into the work plan of the team and the board, and those will continue to be put in place. It's a useful not marking our own homework, to use your phrase from earlier. It is a useful tool to measure our progress and also to get that independent kind of critical friend approach. There was recognition for the progress that we've made, particularly around some of our increases in our TSMs and the responses that we've got. Again, showing that that's been cause and effect in terms of the amount of work that's gone on. So it's a very detailed report. I will circulate it outside of the meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Can I just come back for clarification for anybody watching outside? TSMs are our tenant satisfaction measures?
That's correct. It's the regulator specified form of satisfaction questionnaire which we report on regularly.
Thank you. Councillor A.
Thank you, Chair. A question for Angela regarding recruitment. Looking down the road towards devolution and our possible merger with Southend Council, would it be prudent to consider making links at this time and sharing services with Southend Council?
Thank you, Councillor Ainsley. Just to say, that I think you're talking about local government reorganisation rather than devolution. Sorry to be a pedant. And also, it's not a merger. I want to be really clear, it's not a merger with Southend, it will be an entirely new council. But yes, it's a point well made. From our perspective, you will know that we have had a history with South Essex Homes. And Southend City Council itself received a regulatory judgment in the last round at C3. So we rather think that we will be leading the way on that.
Councillor Brooke.
Thank you. It's just a quick note. It's literally just to be noted. On the crime and disorder implications, 8.1, the council website says you can report a crime in person at a police station. Can I just point out that Canvey Island Police Station is not available for walk-ins? No. We've got a police station, but you can't go in. It's just a note. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Do we have any further questions? No. Members, is that noted?
Noted.
Thank you. Item 6, report. Update on the work of the Climate Policy and Scrutiny Subcommittee, draft climate plan. Members, we have before us a report from the Climate Policy and Scrutiny Subcommittee which sets out the draft climate action plan. Councillor Edwards, please introduce the report.
Thank you, Chair. Members, the Council's got a corporate objective of reducing its carbon footprint with the ambition of creating a greener and cleaner environment in the borough. The Climate Policy and Scrutiny Subcommittee has met 4 times to review and provide comments on a draft climate action plan, which contains proposals to deliver climate action within our organisation and across the borough over the next 3 years. This plan was developed by looking across the range of services that Council delivers and was prepared in line with the recommendations from the Essex Climate Action Commission report, which was an extensive report that was endorsed by our Cabinet as guidance for us in doing our work on local climate action at its meeting on the 16th of July 2025. Following the long discussions at the committee meetings, proposals in the action plan were drafted to ensure that they consider not just the carbon savings that can be achieved through climate action, but also the financial savings as well, which will put Castle Point and its residents in a better position moving forward. For example, the installation of solar panels on some of our buildings, the switch to LED lighting where possible, are going to save us money on our energy bills and help secure long-term savings on energy costs. There are, however, some policy choices that we supported that have a non-recoverable cost with the objective specifically of reducing carbon footprints in line with the mandate that we have. The most significant of those is swapping our waste collection vehicles to hydrogenated vegetable oil, known as HVO, because that's easier to say, which will have a cost to the council because HVO just simply costs more than diesel. But diesel vehicles can actually run on HVO and they cost significantly less than the other option, which was to switch to electric vehicles, which current evidence shows may need to recharge more than once during the day and would slow the progress of waste collection. So we have the opportunity here to make this switch and save 93% of the carbon emissions from our waste vehicle fleet. So that represents a sort of pretty pragmatic and cost-effective way of reducing our footprint from those vehicles, which I trust you'll support. Taking this step's also going to have positive impact on the local air quality compared to diesel vehicles in terms of the nature of the emissions. Turning to community-focused projects, there's a strong focus on engagement with residents, businesses and the voluntary sector in the plan, as we recognise the need to collaborate with and support those in our community who are already taking action or intend to. And the plan doesn't seek to impose measures on residents, but to encourage them and educate them to support the uptake of measures where they're willing to do so. At the request of the subcommittee, this does extend not just to energy efficiency measures around the home and business, but to promoting sustainable travel, encouraging reuse and recycling, and the consideration of reducing the consumption of meat products. We didn't feel that it was our position to dictate to people what their diet is, but we do definitely feel that, you know, just encouraging swaps, etc., would be beneficial. It's considered the projects that we've set out in the plan are going to have positive implications, not just on our carbon footprint, but will also have a positive impact on air quality, improving our waste and recycling efforts, the natural environment, and for the overall health and well-being of residents, and also for their costs of living. We have asked for monitoring and reporting mechanisms to be put in place and for 6 monthly updates to be provided to the subcommittee so we can track progress once the action plan is adopted. So I commend the plan to you.
Thank you, Councillor. Do members have any questions? Councillor Ainsley.
Yeah, it's not a question, it's just it's a comment I would like to make. And obviously I'm on the committee and I fully endorse everything that was said just now. But I want to acknowledge a suggestion submitted as part of the Climate Action Response Plan, which is encouraging residents to adopt a plant-based diet. The approach has clear environmental benefits and may appeal to families facing rising food costs, particularly with meat products becoming increasingly expensive. However, while I see the merits, I would like to raise a concern. Many young families may not have grown up with plant-based cooking and could lack the knowledge to prepare balanced, nutritious meals without animal products. Additionally, some plant-based foods, especially those relying on wheat-based substitutes, may not be suitable for individuals with dietary restrictions, such as celiacs. If we are to promote this shift, we must ensure it is inclusive, practical, and supported by accessible education and resources to help families make informed, healthy choices. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. I just wondered, is there sort of an aim with our procurement that most of it is going to be aimed local, with the interest of cutting CO2 if it's things that are supplied through local suppliers? And secondly, would we be also looking, for example, there's an awful lot of people that drove to the council tonight. Could we not have more meetings and committees via Teams to save the wasted CO2?
So in regards to carbon emissions reduction, we are actually intending to procure a carbon software company to support the council in addressing its carbon emissions, particularly scope 1, scope 2, and where possible, scope 3. So we are in the process of researching and looking into an appropriate provider that will support us in that regard. So we'll be able to have an idea of what our carbon emissions are currently and what can be done more than maybe the projects that we've got in the climate action plan, but how they will support us in ensuring that, particularly between now and 2028, that our carbon emissions are reduced where possible, as much as possible. In regards to meetings for the councillors being done more online or more hybrid approach, I'm sure your colleagues would support such. But also, I do think, where possible, I do think it would be a good idea to consider maybe having meetings in a more hybrid fashion, or maybe not.
So thank you. I think just to build on that, in relation to kind of carbon miles, if you like, procurement rules do allow some scope around geographical and local supply chains, but within certain parameters. So we always do what we can within the prescribed rules to encourage use of local businesses in particular. Some of that comes down to how we package up our procurements, how we the kind of the requirements that we put in relation to things like insurance or deliverables and things like that. So as part of our refreshed approach to procurement and the Procurement Act, we can always look at that. In relation to remote meetings, as you'll know, the government did a consultation in the summer around formal meetings such as this being held remotely. As the law stands, the restrictions which were, or I suppose the relaxations that were applied during COVID do not apply during peacetime. The government hasn't yet come back with its decision on that, but it will require legislation in order to give effect to that. Of course, in terms of non-public meetings and working groups and things like that, absolutely it is able for the chair of that working group or other informal meetings to agree the ability to have fully remote or hybrid meetings, and we have the functionality to support either.
Thank you. Like I say, it was for the non-public meetings I was more thinking.
Councillor Edwards.
If I can also just draw your attention, page 24 under Finance and Procurement, we've asked that the Assistant Director for Finance and Procurement incorporates sustainability considerations, including energy efficiency, waste reduction, sustainable travel and local supply chain preference within the quality criteria of future procurement contacts over 50 grand. We had quite a long debate on whether we could just make that all-encompassing, and the answer is, for many reasons, we can't. So, hence 50k.
Members, are there any further questions? Councillor Broding.
Thank you. I've got just a couple of general questions, really. And number one, do we actively go out to some of the county and council and buildings to consider solar panels? Because I know we fitted them on our school and we were criticised by Essex County Council by doing so. But guess what? It saved the school a lot of money. So, but I would like to think that we are actually actively going out to certainly the buildings that are run and owned by the council to fit solar panels.
Councillor Edwards.
Again, there are provisions in the report talking about seeking grant funding to increase solar, and I know that Grace is currently working on a community energy supply programme which would help us to access more of that type of provision.
May I? Also, we talk about more sustainable travel, but the public transport links, certainly on Canvey Island, are not the best. And I think that is going to be a huge drawback to that. So there would have to be a lot of working on public transport links to encourage more sustainable travel.
Well, I'm happy to attempt to take that. We have, as a council, responded to the Essex Transport Planning consultations that have gone through. We've got reports on that on the system. We also had fairly lengthy debates on the practicality of the overall Essex plan in encouraging people out of their cars and onto their bikes when the roads that we've got on Canby in particular, the hills we've got in Benfleet, etc. Realistically, there's no room for cycle lanes. We can wish them all we like. We can't wish the borough bigger. And all that we've ended up adopting just purely for practicality and a 3-year horizon is mainly education. But, you know, 3 of us car shared up here tonight. If a few more people could do that more consciously, it will start having impact. But there are really very few levers that we could see to pull on that.
Also, if I could just draw your attention to page 11 of the report. So we will be working really closely with Essex County Council to adopt a local cycling and walking infrastructure plan for Castle Point, prioritising the maintenance of existing routes and ensuring adequate funding for their upkeep. So we will do what we can with what we have at the moment, obviously bearing in mind the potential limitations as well.
For further questions, we need to extend the meeting. Are we all happy with that?
Read that out.
Members, we are coming up to 9 p.m. My microphone. Members, we are coming up to 9 p.m. Our constitution only allows us to continue the meeting for 2 hours. Are you happy to suspend this procedure rule in order to complete the remaining business on the agenda this evening?
Yes.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Boker, thank you. Is that agreed, members? Thank you. Ian Butt.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just come back to that point about buses and transport in general. So, at every opportunity that we take, we lobby for improvements to transport. And as Councillor Edwards has pointed out, we recently responded quite firmly to the local transport plan that's been prepared. And in fact, when you look at what was originally proposed in the local transport plan and what is now being proposed, and some of the improvements that Essex County Council are looking at for this borough, that lobbying actually is paying dividends. But as we all know, the transport system in this country is complex, with private operators involved as well. And as a local authority who's not a transport authority, we have limitations. This is really important, though, that we keep this clearly on the agenda, because with local government review and with the devolution as well, and the mayoral authority will be a strategic transport authority, and with, excuse me, and obviously with the cessation of Essex County Council, a new unitary authority will have more power, and it'll be more of a decision making for the new unitary authority to be taking, but working very closely with the new mayoral authority. And actually attended a meeting today where we started talking about who at a local level, district level, will be part of those discussions in terms of setting that strategy and the way forward. So unfortunately, public transport takes a very long time to implement changes, unfortunately. And no doubt, to use the old cliche, we'll probably implement more than one change will come along all at the same time. But please be rest assured, committee, that we will continue to push the case as we have been doing already.
Members, are there any further questions? Councillor Cortez.
Sorry, only a really quick one. With regards to the vehicles powered by HVO, which is an excellent idea, do we currently collect any used vegetable oil in the area from schools or council facilities particularly?
No, because we're not a waste disposal company.
Have we not got a contract with anyone that?
Because that's we also discussed this, and it's a commercial agreement with them, and it's not a service that the council chooses to provide. And obviously, the next stage of refinement, etc., needs for economies of scale, needs a bigger system and a bigger set of feedstock. So we don't do that locally at the moment.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Members, I will move the recommendations set out at paragraph 2.1 of the report. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Edwards. Is that agreed, members? I'd just like to thank the Scrutiny Subcommittee for all the work, time and effort they've put into all this work and report. I think you've done an amazing job. Thank you very much. Agenda item 7, the work plan. Members, the updated work plan has been circulated. Are there any further suggestions? Is the work plan agreed, members? Agreed. Thank you. That concludes the business for this evening. Thank you for your attendance. Meeting closed at 9 o'clock exactly. Thank you.